Thanks for coming today. I'm Lynn Kronschnabel, the new executive director here, and I want to welcome the River Valley Raptors, Abby and Joe. They've been coming here to Winterfest for several years and always a crowd favorite. This fireside talk is part of our once-a-month lecture series called Driftless Dialogue. Driftless Dialogue is made possible by a grant from the Ralph E. Nuzum Reforestation Fund, administered through the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences and supported by the Friends of the Kickapoo Valley Reserve. I'm going to send around a sign-up sheet. If you would sign your name and address. This is really important to help us with the grant reporting. We also have several great talks lined up for February and March, so please come back for those. Abby will take it from here.
All right. Move this up a little bit. All right, well, hey everybody, thanks. I'm so happy to be back again. Like she said, we've been coming here for several years now, and it's always so much fun. I've got a couple birds that have not been here before, so if you guys have come in the past. Our last bird, she's still in the car because it's just a little too cold for her. So I'm going to go get her out of the car when it's her turn to come out. She's actually our newest bird, so I know that unless you guys have seen us at another program, none of you guys will have met her. So that'll be fun. So for those of you who've never seen our programs, as she said, my name is Abby, and I'm the director of River Valley Raptors. We're a nonprofit organization that was co-founded by me and my husband. We've both worked with Raptors for several years, I think almost 12 or 13 years now going on that we've been working with birds, and we've kind of moved around Wisconsin working at different bird facilities, but in the end, we wanted to move back to the Driftless area. I'm from Winona, my husband's from Mondovi, and we just love the Driftless area. It's our favorite place to be, to hike. It's such a beautiful area. So that's why we decided to found our own Raptor organization, so we can continue doing what we love, share our passion with others, and just keep educating people about the really cool raptors that you'll see in our area. So I'm going to go ahead and get out our first bird. Now, of course, these aren't pets. These are wild animals. So I do have permits with both the Wisconsin DNR as well as U.S. Fish and Wildlife, just to bring them here to show you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and get her out. This first bird is part of the hawk family. Now, for those of you guys who know things about raptors, we have 4 major groups of raptors in Wisconsin. So hawks is one. What's another one? Owls, falcons, and eagles. Yeah, those are our 4 major groups of raptors. So I've got a bird from each of those groups except the eagle group, just because our eagle that we currently are training just started working on crate training or going into a kennel like this or a box. So as soon as he's got that down and good, then he'll get to start traveling too. So there's 7 different species of hawks that you can find in Wisconsin. And the one I'm going to bring out for you guys is one of our most common. So I'll bring her out and we'll see if you guys can guess what kind she is. I heard someone say it. She is a red-tailed hawk. So she's a little bit interesting. She's a juvenile red tail. Typically, red-tailed hawks don't get that red tail until their 2nd year of life. However, our guess is that she was maybe grabbed by something shortly after she left the nest and had half of her tail feathers ripped out. So what happens is if they get their feathers ripped out, they grow in new feathers, but they won't grow in their juvenile feathers a second time. They'll grow in the adult feathers. So that's why half of her feathers are that red adult color, and the other half are that juvenile color. So this is Harvey, and for any of you who are Batman fans and know like Harvey Two-Face, she's Harvey Two-Tail is what we call her. So now she's a little bit different than the other raptors that we typically bring to programs. This is actually my falconry bird. So you guys know what falconry is? Yeah, some of you. For those of you who don't, falconry is a form of hunting. But when I go out into the woods, I don't bring a gun with me. I don't bring a bow and arrow with me. What I bring with me is my bird. And so for those of you who might do duck hunting or pheasant hunting, I'm kind of like the dog in the situation. I go and I kick up the rabbits or the squirrels, and then she'll come down and she'll catch them and kill them. So that's what we do. So she was actually trapped from the wild right at the end of September. Now, what's really cool about falconry is that you do have to take a first-year bird when you're trapping from the wild, and we know that what they are because of those tail colors. Now, 50 to 90% of raptors don't make it to breeding age. They die before then. It's very tough to be a raptor. This is an apex predator, so a lot of them don't make it to be an adult. So when we're taking this bird and training it for hunting, we're actually giving her a better chance at survival, because she'll spend this whole winter, and most likely next winter, I usually like to keep birds for 2 years, she'll get to spend those 2 winters hunting with me. If she misses, I still feed her at the end of the day. But now she's out there figuring out how to hunt without that kind of added stress of I have to catch something. She can figure out how to do it, and I give her a lot more opportunities to catch a rabbit or to catch a squirrel than she would have in the wild. And what's been really cool is that this bird, she kind of had some rough looking feathers. Her feet were kind of beat up. She had that tail part of those tail feathers grabbed. There's a good chance this bird would not have made it. She was coming through on her migration when we trapped her. But she was not very successful our first 3 or 4 times out. She was missing left and right. She was tail chasing is what we call it. It's when they try, instead of trying to grab the rabbit by the head, they try to grab their butt. Just all sorts of misses. And then suddenly it started to click. And instead of trying to land where the rabbit was, she's thinking ahead and she's trying to land where the rabbit is going. And so she went from catching nothing to catching something the last 3-4 times we went out. So it's really cool to really watch that sort of progression. I can go ahead and take off her hood here. Sorry, wasn't even thinking about it. This is just something they travel with. We use it for falconry birds because sometimes when we're out in the woods, what I do when I hunt with her is I take off all her equipment and I let her go, and she goes up into a tree and she follows me. Now, if we're out in the woods and we want to get back to the car and I don't want her up in the tree, it's a lot easier to just hood her because she's trained to want to fly off my glove. So as soon as I put her equipment back on and I try walking with her through the woods, she doesn't understand that I want her to stay on the glove, and she's going to constantly try to fly off my glove and go up to a tree. So by putting on that hood, it calms them. It's kind of like blinders on a horse. It doesn't bother her at all. It's just they're so visual that it just sort of kind of makes everything nice and calm, and she just calmly sits on the glove while we walk back to the car. Then at home, she doesn't wear that at all. That's just for traveling and for hunting. Good thing nobody was right behind me. But now that you guys get a chance to look at her, she's a really great example of what makes a raptor a raptor. So there's 3 things that these guys have in common that make them different than, say, a crow or a robin or a blue heron. If you take a look at her, what is something that makes her different, that she might have in common with maybe a falcon or an owl? A sharp beak? Yes. But more to her beak than just that. Does it stick straight out like a robin's? A hooked beak. Yeah, I also heard someone say curved. That's right. So their beak is their tool. That is how they eat their food. So she uses her beak like we use a knife and fork. She doesn't have any teeth. And in fact, she actually doesn't have a lot of power in those teeth. She's not going to, in those beaks. She's not going to be doing any chewing. She's going to hook that beak into her food, and she's going to rip and tear it into smaller pieces with those strong neck muscles. Then she's going to swallow those smaller pieces whole. So a hooked beak is one. What's another one? Talons. Yeah, the word raptor actually comes from the Latin word rapier, which means to grasp or seize. And that's what these guys do with their feet. If their beak is their tool, their feet is their weapons. That is where all the power is. So when we're out looking for rabbits and squirrels, she's gonna grab that rabbit or that squirrel with those powerful feet, and she's got a lot of power there to crush her prey and to kill it as fast as possible. Now we're gonna go hunting tomorrow, so she is a little bit kind of getting that hunger, that kind of ready to go. So that's why she's looking around a little more like, okay, I'm not sure why there's so many people here, but where's the best tree to go in? Because let's get going here. So strong feet, sharp talons, hooked beak. There's one more thing. Eyesight. Yeah, so all raptors have amazing eyesight. In fact, you're only seeing a small part of her eye, but her eye is about the size of her brain. So her eyes are huge, and that gives her really good eyesight. So when she's sitting at the top of that tree looking down, it's not just that she can see that mouse moving under there. She can count the whiskers on that mouse. That's how good that vision is. So it's very crisp, very clear. You know, so she can see, you know, something that's maybe 6-10 feet away in very crisp, clear detail, where some of us can barely read the newspaper at 6 inches away. You know, so she's going to be able to really see that detail. Now, they actually have two fovea, or two focal points in their eyes. So when she's looking straight ahead, she has that detail, but she can also look out and use just one eye, and she has monocular vision using that one eye, and she can detect distance. So if she were looking way over across behind you guys up into the trees, she would be able to detect the movement of a squirrel running in those trees all the way up on that hill line over there. That's how good that vision is. So close up, it's crisp and clear, and far away, she can detect that movement. So those are the three main things: the eyesight, the beak, and the strong feet there. So I'm going to go ahead and get her put away. We'll pop her hood. Yes, this is Harvey. Yeah, and she could be either a small female or a large male. I'm actually not exactly sure which one she is. There we go. So what do you think she weighs? 12 pounds. That's a good guess. I must look really strong too. So if you think of something, you know, we think of a bald eagle and you think of like a turkey. They're roughly the same size, but how well does a turkey fly? Not well at all. So these guys have to be really fast, really good flyers. So they're all feathers and hollow bones. So this morning she was 1165 or 1160 in grams. So that's under 3 pounds. Under 3 pounds. I think it's 454 grams to a pound.
Can her prey be different sizes?
Can her prey be different sizes? Yeah, so we can catch things like rabbits and squirrels that are very big, very large, but she can't really carry that away. They can only carry about 1/3 of their body weight. So she's lucky if she could carry off a prey that was, you know, maybe even a pound. However, she has the strength to kill something, and then she's gonna have to sit on the ground and eat it. So that's why a lot of times you see like deer or eagles like sitting on the side of the road eating deer. They can't carry that food away with them. They also have what's called a crop. So it's kind of like a sack right here, because their stomach is about the size of a walnut, or even smaller for smaller birds. So they can store food in that crop and then slowly digest it into their stomach. Now a bald eagle might sit and eat on a deer and eat lots and lots of food, but then something like when a car comes along, it takes a long time for them to get in the air, because now they have to carry all that food. And that's why a lot of birds that eat roadkill end up getting hit by cars. So if you do see a bird sitting on the side of the road, you know, always slow down if you can, just because they might fly right in front of you and not be able to get above you. All right, so our next bird is part of the falcon family. We have 3 types of falcons in Wisconsin. Do you guys know any types? Peregrine is one. Know any other types? I heard someone say one earlier. Kestrel, yep, they're the smallest. And then there's one right in between. It's called a merlin. So this is Freddie, and Freddie is a peregrine. Can I get that off?
No.
Hold on.
Stop it.
I can't get it, buddy.
Juno, knock it off.
There we go. Now, Freddie used to belong to a falconer. Not us. We never hunted Freddie. But he was hunted by a different falconer, so he was trained to the hood from the time he was young. So occasionally when we travel, we'll still kind of keep him used to that hooding. Just because when we have to do things like maybe cope their beak, which means kind of trimming their beak because it grows too long, we can put that hood on while we do that and do any things like that. So we keep him kind of exercised in that by putting it on a few times a year, but he doesn't use it like our red tail uses it. All right, so if we take a look at Freddie here. Whoa. Trying to get his feathers out from under his feet. Come on, there we go. You can see he's got the same features that our red tail did. He's got a curved beak. He's got big feet and sharp talons, and he's got really good eyesight. Now, who knows what the fastest animal in the world is? Cheetah. How fast does a cheetah go? 75 miles an hour. Who knows what the fastest bird in the world is?
Peregrine falcon.
Peregrine falcon. How fast does a peregrine go?
120.
Double that. The fastest they've been clocked is 242 miles an hour. So is a cheetah the fastest animal? No, it's the peregrine falcon. Now, they actually got that speed because they took a peregrine up into an airplane. They put what's called an altimeter attached to it that was able to measure his speed, and they threw his favorite toy out the door and allowed him to dive down after it. Now that altimeter measured those speeds, and the fastest clocked was 242. Now they think if they actually went higher, the peregrine might be able to go faster, but could potentially lose control. So 242 miles an hour was without losing control. So now, what was that?
Catch the toy?
He did. Caught his toy, landed safely at the bottom, didn't lose control. So now that you guys know how fast a peregrine can go, who thinks they could beat a peregrine in a relay race? Who wants to try? Anybody? You want to try? All right, come on up here. All right, now unfortunately, Freddie can't really fly as well anymore. He did injure his wing. That's why we got him from the falconer. So we're not going to have a speeding race in terms of running. We're going to have a relay race in an eating contest. All right, so do you think you're faster than a peregrine for eating?
Depends eating what.
Well, let me get some food out here for you.
Depends on the food.
All right, I have got some delicious looking mouse. No? Okay, wait. No, it's okay. Well, now that I touched that mouse, would somebody mind going into my pocket? I don't want to touch it now that I touched the mouse. You get to use an orange. We'll get it out there. There you go. You can hand it to him. So, at the count of 3, we're going to have to peel and eat that orange in the time it takes him to eat his mouse.
Hey Mason, give me your gloves.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Wait, I gotta take a picture.
Save time, eat the whole thing.
All right.
You're wasting valuable seconds by peeling.
Well, he hasn't started eating yet, so you got to start peeling. You going to eat it?
He's not hungry.
He's like, there's a lot of people here. Freddie, you're going to lose today. Freddie loses occasionally.
Oh gosh. He's starting to eat it. He's starting to eat it.
I think you're going to lose today, Freddie. It's not your day. That's all right, though. That means that they get to say that they beat a peregrine falcon in a relay race. Freddie, you're going too slow.
The mouse needs more rosemary.
He's like, there's too many people around. I don't want to eat so fast in front of them.
Maybe he's
He's afraid he's scoping out for competition.
One time I had
Go
somebody
Mason.
just they just bit into the orange without even peeling it and just started like ripping it out of the peel. And Freddie stared at them the whole time. He couldn't even eat. He's like, what are you doing?
Mason, hurry.
Oh, you're lucky today. Freddie doesn't seem too hungry today.
How often do they eat?
Once a day. Yep, so Freddie hasn't eaten yet today. But I also gave Freddie a lot of food yesterday, so he might still be kind of full from yesterday. He also, sometimes when they're eating outside, they're a little more nervous. So he is used to being indoors at programs, but outside, now he's kind of got this idea like there could be something around looking at me.
Hurry,
And if
Mason,
they
hurry,
see
he's
me,
eating it. Mason, hurry. Go.
Now he's like, oh shoot, he didn't realize we'd started yet, apparently. Now he's trying to hurry. Freddie, better go faster.
You did it?
Oh, Freddie, you lost today.
Well done.
You lost. Yeah, so we feed all of our food already dead, usually frozen and we thaw it, just because with these guys, if I were to let a mouse go in his enclosure, the mouse doesn't have a chance to escape. So it's not really fair. And these guys are opportunistic, meaning they'll eat something dead before they'll eat something alive because it's less energy. Now, the falconry birds, of course, they catch their food, but that rabbit has just as much chance to escape because it's out in the wild. So, all right, let's give our winner a round of applause. He gets to now say he beat a peregrine falcon in a relay race. And Freddie's like, yeah, I'm just going to enjoy my mouse now. Did he eat the tail already? That's normally the best part. That's like the Raptor spaghetti, where they sort of just swallow that tail. So you can see he uses that beak to rip and tear, and then he just swallows it down. He's actually got little spikes on the back of his tongue to help actually push that food down into his crop. Now, peregrines like to kind of shiver like that because peregrines are really fast. They have really fast metabolisms. So when they get kind of excited, they sort of shiver. So he's not cold right now. He's just excited. He just ate. He probably does want to fly. We can do short flights with him. But if we fly him too much, he will develop arthritis where he had his wing injury. But he just gets really excited after eating. Now, let's go back to that speed though. As you can imagine, he's got to have some pretty cool adaptations to allow him to go that fast. So everything about him is built for speed, down to the shape of his wings. They're long and pointed. They don't sit next to his body like the red tail. They actually cross behind him because they're so long. And when you look at the shape of them, you can see that when we look at like airplanes, they're actually designed the same way with those wings sort of bent back like that. We actually designed fighter jets after the peregrine falcon, not just their wing shape, but as well as the engines are actually designed right after their nostril. If you can imagine going really fast, if you've ever stuck your head maybe out of a window of a car when someone else was driving, it can get hard to breathe. So they actually have cone-shaped nostrils that baffle the air, allowing them to take in air at those fast speeds. And then inside the nostril, it looks almost like a little spiral. It looks the same as when you look inside that jet engine. And that allows just the right amount of air to get into those lungs and those air sacs so that they don't burst or explode. So giving him exactly what he needs to fly. Now his eyes, actually produce tears with the viscosity of maple syrup. So they get nice thick tears that allow him to stay moist while he's diving as well. Now, I should probably go back up by the microphone, I forgot. If we take a look at his toes, he's got very long, skinny toes. Falcons are typically aerial hunters. That means they catch their prey in the air. So what do you think these guys are eating? Birds, that's right. So Freddie can go after something the size of a pigeon or even a duck. Now, can you imagine hitting a duck at 200 miles an hour? That could break those skinny toes that he has. So what they'll actually do is they'll ball their feet and they'll punch their prey right out of the sky. It's called a falcon punch. And it causes their prey to sort of go spinning and spiraling, and it allows him to go and then safely grab that prey at a much slower speed. Now a merlin might go after something the size of a robin or a mourning dove, and then kestrels sometimes get that nickname sparrowhawk because they go after small sparrow-sized birds. But there's something else kestrels like to hunt in the summertime. What else flies? Insects, that's right. Yeah, so kestrels will actually time their migration with the green dragonfly, and that's one of their favorite foods. And if they decide to migrate south, they'll follow the dragonfly south so they can eat them on the go. So it's like real fast food for them, taking them out. So about 90% of the diet of a kestrel is going to be insects in the summertime, and then they'll even go after small snakes, lizards, other small birds, mice, voles, and then in the wintertime, the kestrels that stay here typically go after those small birds. Now, the really cool thing about these guys is that they typically nest on cliffs. So we have them nesting in the bluffs right along the Mississippi. But when their numbers had started to decline to DDT, just like the eagle did, they started to do captive breeding and releasing these guys back to the wild. So they started putting nest boxes on top of tall buildings, like Mayo in Rochester, US Bank down in La Crosse, all have nest boxes for these guys. So what these guys ended up doing is typically we think of them as a diurnal hunter, hunting during the day. But they were finding that they could see the shadows of pigeons in the evening. And so they were able to sneak up on the pigeons by locating where their shadows were and having the pigeons not see them. So they actually adjusted their hunting style to more of an evening or morning hunting time to help utilize those pigeons in downtown.
Lots of food down there.
Yeah, lots of food when you're downtown, definitely. So very cool for these guys. So we're going to put Freddie away because we got one more bird.
Where is he?
She is in the car right now because she does not like to be outside in the wintertime. Do you want to wear this or do you want to just go back? There you go, bud.
Imagine if they're diving through
There you
40
go.
miles an hour and it's 10 degrees out. Definitely 30 below zero wind chill.
So we got to see a hawk and a falcon. And as I mentioned, we don't have an eagle. So what's our last group? Owls. Now we've got 11 different species of owls in Wisconsin. And the species I actually brought with me today is not one native to Wisconsin. It is one, though, that is native to Minnesota.
The falcon?
So, before we get her out, though, when do owls like to hunt?
Night.
At night. What do we call that?
Nocturnal.
Nocturnal. So I got a few different things to show you guys that are a little easier to show with my artifacts. The first one's going to be in their skulls. Do you guys see the owl skull versus the hawk skull?
Yeah.
Do you notice the eye sockets? And at the end of the program, you guys can come and look at these closer. Owls, remember how big did I say a raptor's eyes are? As big as what? Their brain. Owls' eyes are actually bigger than their brains. In fact, if we were to have the same size eyes in comparison to our body as an owl, our eyes would be the size of our fist. Can you imagine? Put your fist up to your head. That's how big your eyes would be. So they have to have these bony plates to help kind of support those eyes and to hold those eyes in place. So I want you guys to put your hands up like binoculars. I want everybody to look up at the sky, look down at the snow, now look back up at me. All right, take your hands away without moving your heads. Can you look up and see the sky and look down and look on either side of you? So we have muscles behind our eyes that allow our eyes to move. Raptors' eyes are so big, there's no room left for muscles. So those eyes are fixed in their head. That's why their necks are so flexible. So if you turn our head as far as we can, from front to shoulder is 90 degrees. Hawks, eagles, and falcons can look behind their backs at 180. But owls can go a little farther. They can go over their shoulder, behind their backs, and over their other shoulder at 270. So not quite, but almost all the way around.
You better call the exorcist.
Another difference we're going to notice is in their feet. I've got a hawk foot and an owl foot. This is from a snowy owl, and you can see the snowy owl has feathers all the way down to its toes. This not only keeps them warm at night, it's kind of like wearing socks, but it actually acts a little bit like snowshoes. Yeah, so snowy owls have so much feathers that they can actually kind of walk on the snow with those feathers. Now, other owls that might not be where it's as cold are still going to have feathers, but not quite as many as the owl, as the snowy owl. Now, how many of you guys have heard owls have silent flight?
Me.
So the reason for that has to do with the way their feathers are designed. And I encourage all of you at the end to come and feel the difference between the two feathers. My hawk feather is smooth on top, smooth on bottom, a little bit stiffer. And for those of you who are near me, you'll probably be able to hear it when I flap it.
Yeah.
Oh, if I can. Now, the owl feather is smooth on top, but the bottom is sort of fringed or serrated, and the feather itself is very soft. So, it doesn't matter how hard I try to do this one. This one's not going to make any noise. Now, to show you a little better, I might need you to back up a little bit. I don't want to hit anybody. I've got these paint sticks that I just got from Fleet Farm. This is like my hawk feather. Smooth on top, smooth on bottom, a little bit stiffer. Oh, it takes a second to get it. Gotta get it spinning. Ah. Yeah, right? It's so cold, doesn't want to spin. You guys can all hear that, right?
Yeah.
What's that doing? It's vibrating. It's moving with the, when I spin it, it gets that vibration to make that noise. All we did was put burlap on it to make it fringed. And it doesn't matter if I get this one spinning. It's not gonna make that same, it's not gonna vibrate like this one does. So that's kind of how their feathers allow them to be silent. So, I'll leave those out. I'm gonna go run and grab our last bird out of the car. So, this here is Hialeah. We call her Leah for short. Anybody know what kind of owl she is? Yeah.
Barn owl?
Not a barn owl. Not a saw-whet. That was a good guess back there, though. Yeah. Not a screech. Not a pygmy. Not an elf owl. You guys have great guesses. She is a yes. She is a burrowing owl. That's right. So we do not. Good job. We do not have burrowing owls in Wisconsin. There is a small population of them in Minnesota. But what these guys do is while they do burrow into the ground, they actually use prairie dog holes. So you're going to find burrowing owls where you find prairie dogs. Now, she is a prairie species. And so one of the reasons that we got her, even though she's not native to Wisconsin, is that one of our big focuses for conservation is conservation of the what's called goat prairies on the bluffs. So for those of you who like to go out and maybe do bird watching and look for the golden eagles when they come here in the wintertime, golden eagles are using those goat prairies. When you look at the bluff and you see a big open spot on the bluff, that's what the bluffs should look like. They shouldn't be covered in all the trees that they're covered in. And those goat prairies are where those golden eagles like to hunt. So Buffalo County has one of the highest populations of golden eagles that come here in the wintertime. So we'll see them from usually about November till about April, or March or April. So Hialeah actually means prairie on a hill. So that's the meaning of her name. So as we take a look at her, she's got our normal adaptations for an owl, a curved beak. She's got only a small amount of feathers on her toes just because she doesn't need those big thick feathers like a snowy. She's got big eyes. What else do you notice about her? What else is a little different? She's small, yep. She's going to go down in those little holes. What about her head? It's very round, isn't it? So all owls have what we call a facial disc. And so if you guys were to cup your ears, you're going to notice that my voice gets louder. That's because when you cup your ears, you're funneling sound to your ears. That's what her facial disc does. It's like a giant satellite dish collecting sound and sending it to those ears. Now, we can't see her ears because they're just little holes on the side of her head. But she actually has one up high facing forward and one down low facing backwards, allowing her to do something called triangulation. When you see them bobbing their heads up and down, what they're doing is they're collecting these different points of sound, and they're able to find their prey, kind of doing that triangle to find that prey just by hearing it without having to see it. So a barn owl actually has the best hearing out of any animal that has ever been tested. They can hear a mouse under 2 feet of snow and crash the snow and grab it without ever having to see it. Now, her hearing is so good she can hear your heart speeding right now. That's how good it is.
Sensory overload.
You know, and you would think, but these guys are used to, you know, being out from what we can detect by their behavior. She doesn't seem to have any sort of signs of stress when she's around people, and we raise all of our owls around our kids and take them to as many places, and they've never exhibited any signs of stress. So they must have some sort of mechanism that allows them to sort of filter out so it's not so much sound in their ears all the time. Now, so the other thing too that's really cool, remember we said they have really big eyes? If you were to kind of pull back their feathers and look through their ear, their eyes are so big you can actually see the back of their eyeball by looking through their ear. So if you ever go to like a banding station where they do sawat owls, when they're putting the bands on, a lot of times they'll do that to 1 or 2 of the owls and kind of just move the feathers so you can see where that eyeball is. So now she's got really long legs because she does spend a lot of time running around on the ground. In fact, one of these guys, one of their ways to kind of keep off predators is when they're down in that prairie dog hole and some predator might come snooping around, they actually make a sound like a rattlesnake. And they'll hiss. So that way the predator will think, oh, there's a snake in there. I don't want to go anywhere near that hole. And that helps keep predators away. But these are also one of the only owls, or one of the only raptors that's very social. So one of the other reasons Leah tends to stay in our house, not just because it's cold in the winter, but she's a very social bird. And so unlike most of our raptors who are like, yep, feed me and then leave me alone the rest of the day, she wants to be around us all the time. She's what we call a human imprint. Which means that she thinks she's a person, or she thinks we're all owls, one of the two. And so, oh, that is an alarm call. So she sees something out there and she's alerting you guys. I think she sees the drone. So that would be like them alerting each other, like, hey guys, there's something up there. Maybe we should head back into the burrow together. You know, so thanks, Leah, for letting us all know. But that brings us to the most important part of our program, and that's what you guys can actually do to help wildlife. A big thing for owls is actually rat poison. Now, a lot of you guys think, why would people be poisoning owls? Well, of course, we're not trying to poison owls. We're trying to poison the mice or the rats that are in our house. But the problem with poison is that it doesn't kill those mice right away. So what they do is they usually eat it, and then they wander outside, and then they're a lot slower than the other mice. So, of course, if they're slower, they're the ones that are going to get caught and eaten by owls and other raptors. And then, unfortunately, the owls get secondary poisoning from that. So it's really important. If you guys have mice in your house, what could we use instead of poison? Traps. Yeah, traps are great. What else gets rid of mice and rats? Cats. Yeah, cats are amazing hunters. However, cats also like to go after birds, and so if you do have a cat at home, you know, either keeping it indoors, building it an outdoor catio if it likes to go outside, or if you have a cat that's just been going outside for 10 years, you don't think you can change it, trying to keep it inside or on a leash during the fledging season, so in the springtime when all those babies are leaving the nest, especially keeping your dogs on a leash too. We have so many baby birds that end up in our backyard, and so all spring and beginning of summer our dogs have to stay on a leash so that they don't go and hurt those baby birds. Now if you do find a baby bird on the ground and nothing's wrong with it, it just, you know, sometimes they leave the nest a couple days before they can fly, you can pick them up and put them back in the nest or put them back up in a tree. Owls and other birds have terrible senses of smell. In fact, the only birds that can smell good are turkey vultures and other vultures that can smell rotting food from miles away. But the rest of the birds don't don't really have a good sense of smell, and so they'll still come and take care of their babies. In fact, when I worked at a rehab center, we've had babies that fell out of the nest and had to be in the clinic for a couple days, either due to weather or they might have had maybe a minor injury, and we put the baby back in the nest 3 days later. And mom and dad just come, oh, there's our baby, okay, and they just keep feeding it again. Birds are phenomenal parents, and in the bird world, both mom and dad typically do the parenting together. So really great parents. For this time of year in the winter time, the last really great thing you guys can do is put out bird feeders, especially when the weather's really bad. Now, it is important to keep your bird feeders clean. And it's also important once you start putting seed out to make sure, at least when the weather's really bad, that you keep putting the seed out as well, because they become to rely on that as a good place to find food. And so it can take a lot of energy for them to go look for different food, or to kind of keep on that body fat when the weather gets really, really cold. But bird feeders are a great way to see what birds are in your backyard, and to kind of see what we have in our town. Now, if you do have a bird feeder by a window, though, it's important we put like bird tape or window clings on our window as well, just so that the birds aren't running into the window. Because why do birds hit windows? They can't see it. How many of you guys have run into a sliding glass door?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just
Confirm nor deny.
just like us. So putting stuff on your windows is going to help keep them safe. So, all right. Well, I think I talked longer than I was planning on, but for those of you guys who have questions, I'm going to stay right here. If you want to come up and see the artifacts, just be careful with the boxes that you don't bump them, just because the birds are in here and we don't want to scare them when they're in their box. But you're welcome to come and touch them.
Thank you.